Hey you, welcome. This deep dive is for you. We're going to break down some really impactful ideas about how we can change and grow, and we're going to make sure you can use this stuff right away in your life.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to zero in on reinvention, and we're going to be drawing from the work of James Altucher in his book, Reinvent Yourself. So consider this your roadmap, your personal guide, to really understand the key principles and, crucially, apply them practically in your own life for, positive change and development. Really, our mission today is straightforward. We want to extract that core essence of what reinvention means from these sources
Yeah,
and make sure you walk away with something you can actually use.
exactly. Not just theoretical. This deep dive, it really goes deep.
Yeah.
It gets into those fundamental ways that we as people can adapt, evolve, and then ultimately thrive in a world that's like constantly changing.
Yeah, that never stops.
Right.
And that's, I think, what the source material kind of hits us with right away.
Absolutely.
Right out of the gate, we're reminded that, he says right here, reinvention occurs every day, and change is the only constant. That's pretty direct, right?
Yeah.
It's not messing around. This concept of reinvention, it's not some abstract thing.
Yeah.
We're all kind of navigating it constantly, whether we realize it or not.
Precisely. And that's the key here. It's about taking control of this constant change, right? Instead of just reacting to whatever's happening around us, like a ship, just being blown around by the wind, we need to be more intentional about it. Embracing the idea that reinvention is an ongoing thing,
Yeah.
it's a way of life. And this is something that you see time and time again with people who consistently reach the top of their fields, whether it's in the arts or you're talking about people in the business world. It's not just a fluke, right? These people, they understand that they need to reinvent themselves regularly.
Yeah. They're not just flashes in the pan, and they're not sitting back waiting for things to just happen to them. And I think this is where it gets really interesting for our listener.
Absolutely.
Because the source throws down a challenge here. It suggests that we should all kind of be looking at a fundamental refresh, a change, about every 5 years. Now, this is not just, oh, let me update my resume. This is about identifying those areas where you might be getting stagnant and intentionally starking that growth. It's almost like hitting like a reset button on like a major aspect of your life, your career. It's a bold idea, but it's pretty cool.
When you think about it, right, it reframes how we look at our own development. You're not trapped by whatever your current situation is. Instead, you can see reinvention as like a natural part of your journey, your ongoing journey. And at the core of this is something that Altucher calls choosing yourself.
Choosing yourself.
And it's a powerful concept.
Yeah. It's not about like waiting for someone to give you permission or waiting for some external event.
Yeah.
Force your hand. Reinvention, according to our source material here, it starts from within you. It's about actively taking care of yourself, physically, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. And the text actually lays out some very practical steps we can take.
It does. And I'm curious, like, what were some of the things that really jumped out at you when you were reading through this material, like in terms of those practical steps?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things that struck me is just this idea of writing down 10 new ideas every single day.
Yeah, it's a simple idea, but it can be powerful, right?
It sounds deceptively simple, I think.
Yeah.
But it could be a really great way to keep your brain kind of like moving and always thinking of possibilities.
Keep those gears turning.
Yeah. And then there's like the strong emphasis on surrounding yourself with supportive people, positive people. And then something that we talk about a lot on this show, but that's, I think, foundational, actively cultivating gratitude. And these aren't just nice suggestions. These are like presented as the building blocks for any serious personal reinvention.
The foundation, yeah. And if we kind of connect this back to the idea of achieving more freedom in your life, more control, especially financially.
Yeah.
The source material highlights a really interesting statistic. It points out that the average multimillionaire has, get this, 7 different streams of income.
Wow.
And, this isn't just about accumulating wealth. It's about creating options for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about building that resilience so you're not dependent on any single source of income. So it ties in nicely with what we were just talking about, choosing yourself, taking control of your own destiny.
Yeah, it's a really holistic approach, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's not just about having like a positive attitude or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's about taking those concrete actions that lead to more freedom and control in various parts of your life.
Hmm.
And I love how the source actually goes deeper into the specific components of this whole process,
It does.
of this reinvention.
It does. One of the first things it talks about is redefining what freedom actually means to you.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, as we just talked about, increasing your income streams. It's also about actively working to reduce those expectations that you might be placing on yourself or that others are placing on you. It's about not getting caught up in all those external pressures, really taking charge of what matters to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then there's this really interesting point about how we can improve our relationships. The source brings in this concept of having plus, minus, and equal relationships.
Yeah, and this is actually something that's attributed to Ryan Holiday.
Okay, so what does that mean? Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's recognizing that not all the relationships we have in our lives are created equal, right?
Okay.
Some relationships are plus relationships. These are the people who energize you, the ones who inspire you. They support you in your growth. And then you have minus relationships. And unfortunately, these are the ones that can kind of drain your energy and leave you feeling negative or depleted.
Yeah.
And then there are the equal relationships, which are those supportive friendships, where there's a healthy give and take. And understanding these different dynamics is crucial if you want to build a network of people who are genuinely going to support you on your reinvention journey.
Absolutely. And that ties into the next point the source brings up, right? The importance of seeking out mentors.
Yes.
And supportive friends, people who don't just cheer you on, but who also push you to grow, challenge you, step outside of that comfort zone. Surround yourself with people who are also trying to improve themselves, who are also on that growth path.
Exactly. And, while we're on the topic of things that can help us grow, let's not forget the power of habits. The source actually states very clearly, you are the average of the 5 habits you do.
Yeah.
And that really hit me hard when I read it because it makes you think about, all those little things you do every day. All those routines that you might not even think about, they have a huge impact on who you become and what you achieve. Small, consistent habits, they add up over time, whether it's what you're eating, the ideas you're engaging with, or even just, how you spend your time. It all matters. It all shapes your trajectory.
So we've talked about why reinvention is important and some of the key pieces involved, but the source also makes it clear that this isn't a one-time thing.
Absolutely. It's not like you reinvent yourself once and you're done.
Yeah, check that off the list, right?
Right, exactly. It's an ongoing process.
A way of life.
A way of life, yeah. And I love this quote. Reinvention is life, period. This is the call to adventure that constantly whispers to us. It beautifully captures this ongoing nature of reinvention.
Yeah.
You never really reach a final destination.
Right.
It's about continuous exploration, adaptation, and growth.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a warning, too. There's this line, learning never stops. Many people die at 25, but are not put in the coffin until 75. The learning stopped for them early.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
It is, and it really highlights the danger of becoming stagnant. We need to keep learning, keep growing, keep challenging ourselves. It's essential for reinvention.
Yeah.
And this is where I want to ask our listener a question.
Okay.
Are you actively seeking out new knowledge, new experiences? Are you questioning your assumptions? Are you pushing yourself to expand your horizons?
Yeah.
Because according to this material, that commitment to continuous learning is what keeps us, truly alive and evolving. And then the source takes kind of an interesting turn.
It does.
It starts talking about the power of influence through language.
Yeah.
Which you might think, well, what does that have to do with personal reinvention?
Yeah, it seems a little random at first.
It does. But what's fascinating here is this connection the source draws between our inherent physical vulnerabilities as human beings, right? And how language developed as our primary tool for influence. It even suggests that because we're not the strongest physically, our ability to communicate, to persuade became our ultimate advantage.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. So it's about using language effectively, not just to transmit information, but to inspire, to influence, to really bring our ideas to life.
So it's about speaking with passion, with enthusiasm to really make an impact.
Exactly. And this ties in nicely with some of the insights we get from Chris Voss, the former FBI hostage negotiator.
Okay, yeah.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, hostage negotiation, what's that got to do with my life?
Right. Bit of a niche topic.
It is, but the principles he shares are actually really applicable to our everyday interactions, how we navigate the world, especially when we're going through periods of reinvention and change.
Okay, so let's get into some of those negotiation strategies. I mean, what are some takeaways here?
Well, one of the first things he talks about is trying to gather as much information as possible while committing as little as you can up front.
Okay.
Think about it like exploring a new career path. Instead of immediately investing in, an expensive degree, you might start by talking to people who are already working in that field.
Yeah.
Do some informational interviews, maybe shadow someone for a day, take a few online courses. You're essentially gathering intel, right? Testing the waters without making a huge commitment.
That makes sense. And the source also, it talks about asking open-ended questions, like starting questions with how and what.
Right. Because those kinds of questions, they invite the other person to give you more detailed answers than just a yes or no. So let's say you're trying to reinvent yourself professionally, and you're talking to someone who's already done what you want to do.
Okay.
Instead of asking them, was it difficult to make that transition? Which they might just say, yeah, it was hard. Ask them, how did you navigate that transition?
Yeah, you get more information.
Right. You get the juicy details.
And there's also this maybe counterintuitive strategy about getting the other party to say no first.
Yeah, this one's interesting. It's about framing questions in a way that kind of leads them to a no. Like, do you want this project to fail?
Right.
Or is this just not going to work for either of us?
And why would you want them to say no? That's interesting.
Well, psychologically, when you get someone to say no, it had actually create a sense of control for them.
Yeah.
And this can make them more receptive to finding a solution.
Oh,
It can kind of disarm them a little bit, and make them more open to collaborating.
yeah, build some trust.
Exactly. And another way to build trust and empathy is actually listing the downsides from your own perspective.
Oh, that's interesting.
So instead of just focusing on what you want, acknowledge the potential challenges or drawbacks from your side. This shows vulnerability. And it can make the other person more willing to listen to your needs,
Yeah.
to really work with you to find a solution, whether it's, a business deal or a personal relationship where you're trying to get support for a change you want to make.
It shows you're not just thinking about yourself.
Exactly. And, sometimes people feel powerless in a situation, right? So the source talks about addressing that feeling head on.
Okay, so what do you say?
You can say something like, it sounds like there's nothing you can do. And it might seem strange, right?
Yeah.
But it can actually be really effective because it acknowledges their frustration.
Yeah.
And sometimes just hearing that validation can prompt them to start thinking of solutions they hadn't considered before.
Okay.
It's about showing them you understand where they're coming from. And then there's the technique of anchoring.
Anchoring, what's that?
So anchoring is when you start a negotiation by putting out a specific number. And that number is slightly lower than what you actually want.
Oh.
So you're setting an initial reference point.
Mm,
And that can influence how the whole negotiation plays out.
interesting.
The key is to be specific with your number, but not so low that it's insulting.
Yeah, right. Got to be realistic.
Exactly. And then there's this really simple technique called mirroring.
Mirroring, what's that?
Mirroring is basically just repeating the last 1 to 3 words of what the other person just said.
Huh. That seems so simple.
It is simple, but it's surprisingly powerful. It shows that you're really listening, that you're trying to understand them, and it often encourages them to elaborate further, give you more information. And the source emphasizes that after you mirror, you need to be quiet.
Okay, so mirror and then shut up.
Pretty much.
Why is the silence so important?
Well, that silence creates a space for the other person to fill, and often they feel this natural urge to jump in and say more, maybe clarify their position, or they might even start negotiating against themselves.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. So the goal is to get them talking more, to give you more insights into what they really want. And this is where it's important to remember you're not bound by any deadlines they try to impose.
Yeah, don't let them pressure you.
Exactly. As the source reminds us, the negotiation won't end. They still need you. So all of these negotiation tactics, even though they come from, high pressure situations, they provide really valuable frameworks for how we navigate those conversations and decisions that inevitably come up when we're trying to change our lives.
Yeah.
And they all come down to understanding human psychology and how we communicate.
Absolutely. Now, the source kind of switches gears a bit and goes into daily practices for a better life,
Yeah,
which I think are definitely connected to this idea of self-improvement and reinvention.
absolutely.
And one of the first things it talks about is instead of thinking about, the afterlife, ask yourself, who did I help today?
Yeah, that's a powerful shift in focus, isn't it?
Yeah.
It brings you right back to the present moment and gets you thinking about concrete actions you can take to make a difference in the lives of others. And that can be a huge source of meaning and purpose.
Mm-hmm. And there's this great quote from Mac Lethal, people don't remember what they don't like.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
What do you think the significance of that is in this context?
Well, it's saying that if you focus too much on negativity, on past failures, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's much more productive to focus on creating positive experiences, doing things that help others. Those are the things people remember.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the source circles back to this idea of choosing yourself daily.
Mm-hmm.
And it points out that this happens through all the individual choices we make.
Yeah.
Even when we're feeling scared and hopeful at the same time.
Yeah. It's about realizing that reinvention isn't some big dramatic event.
Right.
It's about the decisions we make every day.
Yeah.
And even when we're not sure how things will turn out, when we act with intention, with that belief in ourselves, it can lead to some amazing results. And this ties in with avoiding regret, right?
Yeah, like making those choices so you don't look back and think, what if?
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your life, of your future. And, sometimes things don't go according to plan. And when that happens, the source offers this perspective from Wayne Dyer. He says, it must be because I haven't used enough determination, or I haven't been fearless enough, or I haven't been willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
That's pretty direct.
It is. It's a call to action. It's saying, take responsibility for your outcomes. Don't give up when things get tough. Push through those obstacles with persistence and courage.
Yeah.
And speaking of pushing through obstacles, the source talks about the incredible power of incremental improvement.
Oh, yeah. The 1% better every day concept.
Exactly. And this is so important because it reminds us that big changes don't happen overnight. It's about those small, consistent improvements that add up over time. The danger is we underestimate the impact of those small daily choices.
We don't see them right away.
Right. They seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they can lead to huge results.
And Wayne Dyer also shares this interesting analogy.
Yeah.
He was asked about the difference between good and God.
Yeah, and his answer is O, like the letter O.
It's O.
Yeah, like zero, like the absence of something.
Okay, and how do you interpret that?
Well, I think he's saying that whatever really lights you up, whatever fills you with passion and excitement, that's your God.
Okay.
It's that internal compass that points you toward what you're meant to be doing.
What you're meant to be doing, yeah.
And that's such a crucial part of reinvention, aligning yourself with your true purpose.
Absolutely. And the theme of helping others comes up again.
Yes, it does. This time with Altucher's personal mission to save a life every day.
Save a life, wow.
Yeah, he talks about how he tries to do that in various ways, big or small, and he encourages everyone to do the same. He says, don't let the sun set without helping someone.
That's a good one.
It's a powerful call to action. It's about making a difference in the world around you, and that can be a huge source of fulfillment, especially when you're going through a process of reinvention.
So when we're evaluating new opportunities, the source emphasizes integrity, humility, and doing your best.
Yeah, those are the qualities you want to look for in the people you work with, the organizations you're part of. It's about aligning yourself with people who share your values.
Especially when you're navigating a new professional landscape.
Absolutely. And the source also recommends that we think about a plan B, even an evil plan.
An evil plan, huh? I like that.
Yeah, right. So it's not about being pessimistic, but it's about being prepared, thinking through those what-if scenarios.
Yeah.
What if things don't go as planned? What are your options?
So plan B is your backup.
Yeah.
And the evil plan is like worst case scenario.
Exactly. It's all about mitigating risk and being resilient. And the source also encourages us to do something every day that pushes us out of our comfort zone.
Every single day.
Yeah, even small things. It's about constantly challenging yourself, building resilience, expanding your skill set, overcoming that fear of the unknown, all essential for reinvention. And here's a really encouraging thought from the source. It says, it's never too late to do what you love. What you love is always on the shore, waiting for you to arrive, waiting with open arms.
Oh, I love that.
It's beautiful, right? It's like no matter where you are in life, no matter what choices you've made in the past, you can always find your way back to what truly fulfills you.
You can always get back to that shore.
Exactly. And Altucher, he gives us a realistic timeline for what a significant career reinvention might look like.
Right.
He says it usually takes 1 to 3 years for the initial learning phase.
Okay.
Then about 2 years in a pre-profit stage where you're building your skills, your network.
Okay.
Then 3 to 4 years to actually start earning a living from your new career. And then maybe 5 to 6 years to truly excel in that field.
Okay, so we're talking years, not months.
Right. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It requires commitment, persistence, but the rewards can be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's this little anecdote about Sergey Brin's approach to interviewing people at Google.
Yeah, this is a great one. Apparently, he would make a quick decision about whether to hire someone, and then he would spend the rest of the interview trying to learn something new from them.
Wow. So it wasn't even about the candidate anymore.
It was about him growing and learning, and that's the mindset we need to cultivate, always be open to new perspectives, even in situations that might seem purely evaluative.
Always be learning.
Always be learning. And the source, it offers a really concise definition of what it means to choose yourself. It says to choose yourself is to care greatly for creation.
Care greatly for creation.
And I think that's beautiful because it's so broad. It's about taking ownership of your life, but it's also about engaging with the world around you, contributing your talents, your energy in a meaningful way. And it warns us against tying our entire sense of worth to just one thing.
Right, like one activity or one specific identity.
Exactly. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your sense of self. And it also reminds us to celebrate the small victories along the way.
Yeah, celebrate the small stuff.
Yeah, not just the big milestones. Recognize those little moments of progress.
Because those add up.
They do. They keep you motivated. They
Yeah.
keep you going. And here's a really reassuring thought. It says, we were put here to try. Nobody will grade us.
I like that. Takes the pressure off.
It does. It's like give yourself permission to experiment, to make mistakes, to learn and grow without the fear of judgment.
Yeah, just try things.
Just try things. And then there's this idea of focusing on becoming the best me at everything.
The best version of yourself.
Exactly. And you do that through those small, daily 1% improvements.
So it's not about comparing yourself to others.
No, it's about competing with yourself. Always trying to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday.
I like that.
And the source emphasizes, once again, the importance of starting your day with the intention to help others.
To make a positive impact.
Yeah. It sets the tone for the whole day. It guides your actions. And it's about asking yourself, how can I help my friends, my loved ones, my colleagues?
With whatever resources you have.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be something big or complicated. Just small acts of kindness and support can make a huge difference. And this theme of continuous improvement, it comes up again and again throughout the source material.
Yeah, it seems like it's a key concept.
It is. It's about cultivating that growth mindset.
Always striving to get better.
Always striving to get better. And then there's this saying from the world of chess, only the good players are lucky.
What does that mean, do you think?
It means that what looks like luck is often the result of hard work, preparation, and skill.
Oh, I see. So you create your own luck.
Exactly. The more you learn, the more you practice, the more adaptable you are. The more opportunities you'll see and be able to seize. And here's a thought-provoking statement. You never know what someone is truly worth until they declare bankruptcy.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
It is. But I think it speaks to the idea that true character is often revealed during times of adversity. How someone handles those challenges, how they bounce back, that's what really matters. And it's a quality that's essential for reinvention.
Yeah, you got to be resilient.
You do. And the source asks this really interesting question. What does your good enough day look like? What's one thing that moves you past that?
That's a good one to reflect on.
It is. It gets you thinking about your baseline for a satisfying day and then challenges you to push yourself beyond that, to do something that elevates your day, to make it even better. And when it comes to leadership, the source offers a simple way to judge a leader's success.
Okay, how?
It says, look at whether their employees go home at the end of the day feeling genuinely excited about the work they've done.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, engaged, like they're making a real difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's another encouraging thought here. It says, never let the practical get in the way of the possible.
So don't let those limitations hold you back.
Exactly. Dream big. Don't be afraid to pursue ambitious goals, even if you're not sure how you'll achieve them. Believe in the power of possibility.
I love that. And then it circles back to this idea of helping others, connecting it to our own success.
Yeah, it says simply asking yourself daily, how did I help people today, can lead to unexpected abundance in your own life.
Oh, that's powerful.
It is. It's about recognizing that generosity, that act of giving, can have ripple effects. It can create positive outcomes in ways we might not even anticipate.
And that ties into the next point, right? About breaking free from external expectations.
Yes, absolutely. It's about defining your own version of success, not letting others dictate what's important to you.
Right. It's your life.
It's your life. And the Source encourages us to follow the path that speaks to our heart, even if it seems less secure, less certain.
Follow your passion.
Follow your passion, because that's where you'll find true fulfillment. And it emphasizes the importance of continuous self-competition.
Oh, right. That idea of always pushing yourself.
Exactly. Set new challenges for yourself. Create new metrics to measure your progress.
Always striving to be better.
Always striving to be better. And then there's this profound statement about wealth. It says, learning to find happiness with less is true wealth.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It's about shifting our perspective on what it means to be wealthy. It's not just about material possessions.
It's about contentment.
It's about contentment. It's about gratitude. And it's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes from within. And the Source also talks about the power of transforming suffering into creative energy.
Yeah, like taking those difficult experiences and using them to fuel positive change.
Exactly. It's about resilience. It's about using those challenges as opportunities for growth. And it uses the iceberg analogy to encourage us to explore our own potential.
Oh, yeah, like there's so much more beneath the surface.
Exactly. We often only see a small part of what we're capable of. There's a whole world of talent and possibility waiting to be discovered.
It's exciting to think about, isn't it?
It is, and it reminds us that reinvention is about exploring those depths, pushing beyond our limits.
And there's a really important point about the true meaning of success. It says, success doesn't truly mean anything if it ultimately leads to misery.
So it's not just about achieving goals.
It's about well-being. It's about happiness.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, that sense of fulfillment in all areas of your life. And finally, the Source touches on Anders Ericsson's theory of deliberate practice.
Yeah, the 10,000 hours thing.
Right. But it clarifies that it's not just about putting in the hours, it's about the DAR.